careful out there now.
Dale Earnhardt in car number 2 as a rookie to watch in this race.
I admired everything about my dad.
Look at that precision driving right to the line.
Dale Earnhardt is champion.
I admired how dedicated he was to racing.
Dale Earnhardt, one tough customer, gives the thumbs up. It all comes down to this, to decide the national champion.
If I got any other troubles in life or anything, I don't think. Just racing, that's it.
He just wanted to race so bad that that's all he had on his mind.
Racing was his number one priority. Everything else took a back seat.
He understood that his persona had a lot of value.
Dale had no friends on the racetrack. Everybody else was an enemy.
I didn't hit him. You got around him.
My daddy said, man, if they're not clapping for you, they better be booing you.
I'm here with Dale Earnhardt.
What's the question, dude?
I was watching my dad live this dream that I wanted for myself.
You're following in some major footprints. Who's the most likely one to succeed?
Young Earnhardt gets an unwelcome debut at Daytona.
Dale Earnhardt Jr., the next generation of NASCAR superstar.
He looked at me like he'd never looked at me before.
And here comes Earnhardt to take the lead.
We do it because we don't know any better. This is what we do.
Why would you want to do something that you know darn well could kill you?
I had never wanted to do anything else.
Joshua, first of all, great job.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I have some interesting thoughts and some questions. It's funny when you watch docs because the one thing I like a lot outside of the subject matter here is just looking at the people, the time, the decade. Like you're almost going back. This is gonna be so cheesy, but going back in a time machine, and I kind of love that. I'm kind of a nostalgic person. You ever notice that when you're putting together your docs that like obviously that's a big part of it, but I think people people gravitate to some of that to a certain degree.
For sure. And I'm very, very glad to hear you say that, because that was very much an intention of ours, I think, in making this, was that we were sort of taking people in a time machine, and in a lot of ways, I think, telling the story the way we did chronologically like that and really going back to like the 70s and stuff, you get to experience and just sort of, experience these time periods in a way that, like, how could we not do that with all this archive? Like, once we sort of discovered that we had this treasure trove, NASCAR, initially when we went to them, we're like, we want everything. And they were like, well, there's 15 petabytes, so you can't have everything. How do you figure out what you need and what to get? And sort of as we started unearthing those gems, it was like pretty clear that like, okay, we have the goods here to like really like transport people.
Yeah, and from watching it, it's like he didn't seem like he was all in on being a dad early on, right? Like he evolved. I guess you could say that about a lot of people. Do you think he evolves as much of a father as he does race car driver? Do you think he evolves in that way as well?
I don't know if he evolves as much, but he certainly evolves. And I think, I think that sort of was always attracted to us. I think we all grow as humans, obviously, over the course of our lives. But I think, to watch him go from someone who is sacrificing his family and just doing everything to become this successful driver, slowly start to let family in. And strangely, it's like not the kids that you meet in episode 1 that he starts to let in, both through Kerry and then, the birth of his daughter, Taylor. But I think by the end of it, you look at him with Dale Jr. and the way that he opens up. And it's a very cinematic arc in a lot of ways. Like, it's just, it's sort of one of the things that really attracted us to the story from the jump.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I never say negative things on my podcast. I'm a very positive person, but I'm watching episode 1, and I'm like, I think Darrell Waltrip was talking, and the year was 81 or 80. And I'm like, I do the math in my head. I'm like, oh my God, he's 34. He looks like he's double that, and he's a good-looking guy. Like, I don't want to sound like negative, but what is it? Is it hard living? Is it hairstyles? Listen, I'm not one that can talk about looks, but I feel like going back, I'm like, this guy looks twice his age, and he's not. He's a handsome guy. But what is it with that? Is it the times? Is it the style? Is it hard living? Is it the nature of the profession? Tell me I'm not being superficial here. Is it? Did you notice that too?
I don't think you are being superficial. I think probably a lot of it has to do with going 200 miles per hour around a track.
There you go. There you go.
I imagine that's going to weather your face a little bit, especially, back then. I mean, to look at what they were wearing. I mean, Dale, and most of the other drivers too at the time, really just wearing these like goggles
or glasses. Yeah, like those serial killer glasses.
Yeah, I know we were going and we've been mixing sound, this incredible sound mixer, Lawrence, Everson for the past, I don't know, 3-4 weeks now. So, but I remember early on, he was just like, man, their windows are open the whole time. There's a net, like from like an outsider perspective, you're just like, how are they going that fast with the window open? I'm like, well, they need that. They like need to feel the wind in a lot of ways to get around and understand, where the best position is. But
yeah.
That must take a toll on your face.
Yeah, because I'm like, he's only 34. I'm like, but hey, listen, who am I to judge? I just was surprised at that fact. The fact that Dale dies on his last lap, right? Do you think that the whole incident, not just the last lap, but the last race, if he doesn't die in that race and he lives to today, do you think death magnified his popularity, or do you think he was the man, even if he was still alive today?
Yeah, no, I don't think he could have been any more popular. You know what I mean? I think that's the strange thing is that what it did is it magnified his son's success for sure. You know what I mean? That all of a sudden Dale Earnhardt Jr. became this, and he was already, again, this rising star, face of Bud going everywhere. But all of a sudden, all this attention went on to him. You know what I mean? Where there's this attention before it was on his dad and him. Now, all of a sudden, all of it gravitated towards him. So I think that certainly changed. But no, I think Dale Earnhardt Sr. was, without a doubt, the face of the sport well before he died,
Yeah, he had Junior had no business in that race car a week after his dad passed. He was just nobody should, like, that's just a tall ask for that guy to do that, right? I mean, and then he's got this, he's kind of rocketed into this popularity. It's almost like he didn't have time to grieve. Like, that's the crazy part about it.
Yeah, and I mean, strangely enough, there's that parallel there between him and in episode 2, his own father, a week after losing his best friend is in a race car driving and competing, and he ends up winning his 7th championship that season. So, I mean, for us, I think it was a hard, every time I sat down with any of either the family or the crew, that was one thing that I always like sort of was struggling with from an outsider, to be like, I do not understand how that could be the place where you think is most safe for you after something like that. It just doesn't compute in my head,
Yeah, and the thing that I found his kids to be the most, there's a lot of intriguing parts to this documentary, but I love just his kids. There's things I want to go ask you quickly, but having the fact that your dad's death is relived over and over again, that's got to take a toll. Like, I mean, I never mind watching it unfold. Is my dad okay? Like, I can't even. It's been days since I finished it, Joshua, and I can't wrap my head around it. Like, knowing that my dad's passing is there for the whole world to see over and over and over. I couldn't relive it. My heart would be shattered. I couldn't do it. Josh, so what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that was hard for the entire family. I mean, and in a way, again, it's sort of inescapable. They couldn't just leave the sport, nor did they want to leave the sport. For all of them, I think they all sort of were, for better or worse, trapped in this sort of cycle of week after week, continuing to race, continuing to do everything associated with the sport. And yeah, your father's there everywhere. I mean, the strange thing is too, if you talk about the impact of this, and there are, I think, a lot of athletes that can reach a similar status like this. I mean, peak level, like Michael Jordan, Babe Ruth, this like legendary status within a sport. But the truth is that Dale is still like his like number is still on people's bumper stickers. Like, you'll go to a NASCAR event, there's flags with a 3 still. I don't know any other sport that exists really to that level, where someone's been, passed away that long ago, and their presence is still felt everywhere when you go to these sporting events. So yeah, I think it's unique in that way, and I think he had to come to terms with it. He had to figure out how to live with it, or otherwise it would have killed him.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. I have a few more questions. Thank you, Josh, for this time. I really appreciate it. So the funeral's packed, right? I wasn't ready for this. Some of this footage is just so awesome. I don't know how you decide what to use, because it's so good. I feel like you could have gone on and done 12 parts, 24 parts, right? So his funeral's packed. The fans they're buying images of him, like you're saying. They can't get enough of Dale. He's got this Princess Diana popularity, right? Where does it come from? Why do the people relate to him so much? What is it? Like, maybe that's the secret sauce that we can't figure out. But from you doing the research and your hard work, what's the secret sauce behind Dale? Why is he so popular? Never mind 25 years later, at the heart of it, when it started in, 2001 and before.
Yeah, I mean, I think, probably a little mix of rags to riches, sort of, watching this guy come from nothing and make it. I think him continuing to sort of go back to that, running on a farm and getting his hands dirty and continuing to be sort of salt of the earth person, in spite of that success. I think that obviously was part of it. But I also think, just the fact that he was this badass and he wasn't going to get pushed around. I mean, I think that is innate. Something that a lot of us just gravitate towards. We don't, whether we say it out loud or not, you know what I mean? I think he embodied that. And I think a lot of people latched onto that. They were like, this is the guy I want to be,
There's a quote, a reporter asks him about, aren't you ever worried you're going to die? And he basically says, racing's my life. This is all I've ever wanted. I feel like there's times, Joshua, that he chooses that over family. We mentioned that earlier. I don't want to piggyback on that, but I'm trying to put myself in his shoes. I mean, I guess you can't get any more passionate than that. I mean, I mentioned the kids that I was really just fond of. And I think Kelly's the one that blows me away, because Kelly says, it was just so sudden. I didn't get closure. And I feel like you mentioned people relate to the kids, the family. That is so true. Like, I get what she's saying. We've all lost somebody that means a lot to us. It's the closure part. It's everything. What did you find about specifically Kelly and the kids that perhaps you found fascinating, that you found interesting?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I think Kelly was just incredibly gracious again in terms of opening herself up to us. I mean, and being able to share herself so honestly. What a gift to have as a documentarian, to have, people that are willing to go there and be vulnerable. She had a unique set of circumstances with her dad, and I don't know how you ever sort of, in a way, fully recover from that, but I think she's done a great job growing and really, figuring out how to channel that into terms of being a parent to her own kids. Her youngest son, Wyatt, is racing and very successful. And even that to me was something that I had to, continually figure out with her and talk about, because as a father, it's very hard to understand, when you lose your own parent that way, how you could continue. And she was like this, it's much in what she says sort of at the end of the film, you know what I mean? This is all we know. This is what we do. I think that when something's ingrained in you in that way, and it's something you love to that level, it's impossible to ever let it go.
That's another great point. Let me say this. I'll end with this. One of my favorite things about this, I love NASCAR movies. I love movies about racing. You made me, I don't really follow the sport all that much. I mean, I know about it. You made me fall in love with this as a story, right? I don't have to be a NASCAR fan to love this. Like, somebody who doesn't know anything about NASCAR can watch this for the humanity of it, right? It's so great to watch on that level. Yes, if you're a NASCAR fan, it's a buffet for you. What was the most surprising thing, or what did you come away with? Just your general thoughts about Dale that perhaps you didn't know coming in. I'm sure you've been asked variations of this, that you didn't know coming into this project, that by the end you were like, Jesus, this guy is. I'll let you say whatever you want, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. Well, first off, by the way, thank you. I appreciate you saying all that, and I do think that, for us coming into this, it's how do we make this appeal to like the widest audience possible, especially coming into it as outsiders. Like, we're not NASCAR fans, so we sort of came into it from the fascination of, wow, this family story. I think we did. Having researched this, I knew to a level of how incredible Dale was as a driver. The most surprising thing to me was that I didn't quite know how successful he was as a businessman. And to know that he was that successful, having dropped out in like 8th or 9th grade, you're like, wow. He had this sense of awareness and just business acumen that I don't think he often gets credit for. But he changed the sport, and not just himself, but in a lot of ways, all these other drivers. He sort of took hold of his name and was like, my name, image, and likeness is owned by me, and I'm going to license that out. And then took all the other drivers with him in a lot of ways to sort of, build this company and do that for them. And I think, I don't think that's known by a lot of people.
Yeah, Josh, great work. I was so fortunate to see this. First two drop May 22nd, next two drop May 29th. You are very talented. Thank you for letting me be a part of this, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Derek. Appreciate it.